Here's a fun fact. The super jump is actually the highest jump that you can perform off of a flat surface in Halo 5. That's right, that means that there are certain areas and maps that are completely inaccessible unless you can perfectly time a super jump, meaning that you should probably add it to your gameplay if you haven't already, and I know some of you have. Some of you are super jump masters. If you're a super jump master, share the wisdom in the comments. Let me know if there's something that I missed, but if you're not, if you're learning how to improve, heck, if you're starting from ground zero, watch this video. I'm going to break it down. All right, here's an example. I'm going to use a super jump to get from basement up to rail. Now note that from this position, this is the only jump that I can actually do to clamber up to this spot. So here's the jump. And that's it. It's a combination of two techniques, a thrust slide and a stabilized jump. You have to perform them together flawlessly. So logically speaking, if you want to be amazing at the super jump, you need to first be individually amazing at the thrust slide and then at the auto stabilize or at the stabilized jump. So I've talked about thrust slide before in a separate video. I'm going to link it in the description. Advanced Halo 5 thrust sliding. Check it out if you want to know more. But turn off, toggle crouch, make sure you have a flat surface in front of you, sprint, thrust, instantaneously after you thrust, hold down crouch so that you can slide, and that's all there is to the thrust slide. Now for the super jump, it's important to know that after you slide, you want to pop yourself out of that slide with a jump as early as possible. Like the first frame that you start sliding, jump out of that slide, and then you can get a higher peak height on your super jump. If you take longer to jump out of that slide, you'll go farther, but you'll have a lower peak height on your super jump. So if you want to go really high, you need to make sure you pop yourself out of that slide with a jump as early as possible. That's all you really need to know. And then we have the stabilized jump. Now, the biggest thing that you need to know about the stabilized jump if you want to have a really high super jump is you need to turn off your auto stabilize. By default, auto stabilize is on. I'll explain why this is a pain. If you have auto stabilize on, see how long it takes for the stabilize to actually come up after I scope. You'll see the color of my screen change and you can hear it, but I scope and there's a short period, like a fraction of a second where I'm scoping and then the auto stabilize comes up after the scope. Now if I turn that off, and now I'd be doing it manually, so I'd have to press sprint in the air to manually stabilize, I can instantaneously, see the color of the screen change? I can instantly stabilize. The moment that I start scoping, I'm stabilizing, which is so helpful because if you can put out an early stabilize, like those milliseconds count, the earlier you can bring out that stabilize after popping yourself out of a slide with a jump, the higher you're going to fly up in the air. So it's super important that you have auto stabilize off so that you can instantaneously activate that stabilize, which means that there's a big learning curve for some people who aren't used to automatically or aren't used to manually activating that stabilize. I'd say you have to practice this technique by itself. Try stabilize jumping up onto this box. If you're really good at stabilize jumping, you should just be able to sprint and jump, stabilize, hold crouch, obviously, in the air so you can get over this box without clambering. And if you're really good at doing this, then you've already nailed the second half of the super jump. Now, one thing that you might notice that people do when they super jump is they mash crouch when they're super jumping, and it's important that you mash crouch sometimes too. Now, I'll demonstrate why. If I jump and I stabilize, see how I slowly descend? So I stabilize and I slowly start to fall. If I jump, stabilize, hold crouch, I'm slowly falling still, but it's slower. So regular stabilize fall, and then stabilize, hold crouch, I still fall, but it's slower. Now, if I stabilize, mash crouch, I maintain my peak jump height the entire stabilize until the very end when I just fall and lose it all, right? Mash crouch, maintain your peak jump height. So that's why people mash crouch, because when they're stabilized and they're mashing crouch, they stay at the peak of their jump height for the entirety of the stabilize until the stabilize is finished and they fall straight down. So knowing that, if you mash crouch at the end of your super jump, you will maintain the peak height on the super jump as long as possible and ensure that you can clamber up to those really high places, like up here, right? And that's the biggest thing you need to know. So it takes a lot of practice. Thrust slide, immediately pop yourself out of that slide with a jump. Turn off auto stabilize so you can activate stabilize instantaneously. And remember to jump, hold, crouch, activate that stabilize. And you can mash crouch to maintain your peak jump height so that you can stay high enough in the air for a longer period of time. Now, if you're a master at super jumping, then you can land this jump. If you land this jump and you can land it consistently, then I will consider you a master at the super jump. That's probably the hardest super jump to land on this map. If you can do it consistently, then you've got this jump down. You can start applying it in different places on Halo. There's another one right here. You can super jump to either this door or to that door right there. So a lot of different options on Rig to try it out and practice and get super good at this. Remember, I talked about thrust sliding in a previous video, and I said that you can thrust slide out of the air. So you can super jump out of the air now too, like off of this box. You can super jump like that off of the box and then jump up to that spot as well. So many different ways that you can apply this technique. I recommend that you start practicing it. First, be a master at the two individual techniques by themselves, the thrust slide and the stabilized jump. If you can master both of those techniques individually, then you can apply them together and you can do the super jump. So give it a try. What do you guys think? Is this something that you apply regularly in your gameplay? For those of you that have mastered the technique, feel free to add any other extra comments or wisdom that you have related to this jump, especially if you use a different control scheme than I do. I currently use Bumper Jumper. I personally find that Bumper Jumper is the best control scheme to nail this consistently. I also have paddles on my controller that allow me to thrust and to sprint, so I can hit those buttons really quickly. Do you claw your controller? Do you use a different control scheme? I feel like default would be super difficult to master this on. So if you're a default user and you master this jump, I guess let me know in the comments and let the viewers know if you have any extra, comments and details for them. But all in all, that's what I wanted to talk about today. Thank you guys for checking out the video. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell beside the subscribe button. You will be notified the moment a new video comes out. Remember to follow me on Twitter and on Instagram. Thank you guys for checking out the video. I will see you around with the next one.